Aokana, Four Rhythms Across the Blue is a visual novel released in 2014 by developer Sprite, and later localized in English in 2019 by Nekonyan, with it getting an anime adaptation in 2016 by Studio Gonzo. Following a sci-fi slice-of-life setting based around romance and a fairly complex fictional sport is what makes this visual novel unique. But does it stick the landing with its concept, or end up plummeting face first into the ground? A technological breakthrough has integrated the use of anti-gravity material, allowing the people of the world to fly freely in the sky with the invention known as grav shoes. Aokana follows young Masaya Hinata, someone who was once a prodigy at a sport using grav shoes known as flying circus, abbreviated as FC. But early during his childhood had a devastating fallout with the sport, causing trauma that led him changing his life to avoid any use of flying or even thinking about FC. Yet, one day he meets a cheerful transfer student, Karashina Asuka, who after learning about anti-grav shoes becomes immersed in the concept of soaring through the sky and later the sport that has stemmed from it. Witnessing her innocent first steps into this world leads him to just slightly break through his mental blockage, and at the request of Asuka, becomes the coach of Kunahama Institute's FC club, training each member to their fullest potential, as Masaya himself reluctantly gets dragged back into the world of FC. Following a 6-chapter common route, then consisting of 4 routes of which Masaya can direct his focus onto a specific heroine, both in terms of an FC player and romantic interest. From the beginning, the characters and world shine brightly, making the story feel welcoming. Slowly throughout the game's first half, we get to know more about this world and thought put into the mechanics of grav shoes. There are many small details that go into flight that make the sport FC both intriguing to learn about and entertaining to watch. The fictional sport is actually well thought out, with complex rules, strategies, and techniques the players can pull off. Because of this, and our ignorance of the sport, every match is exhilarating. Every encounter will reveal something new or put a spin on something that one of the main cast will take into account in the future. Nearly every match has you invested in the outcome, letting out the character's desires of which the reader can attach themselves to. Everything throughout the first playthrough is beautiful, but the problem begins with each consecutive playthrough. It may just be me, but routes quickly got repetitive, stemming from a formulaic story that lacks variation between its diverging paths. While the focus on characters and themes differ, how they reach its conclusion feels like you have already experienced something very similar, leading future routes to feel slow with their pacing, mostly near the beginning and middle. Despite this, the final few hours of each route use the experiences prior to hit home with a climactic finale. Even if you are indifferent to the character themselves, what their actions convey leaves your face with a heartwarming smile in the end. What makes it special is not so much the originality, but using the tropes to their fullest potential to extract the most possible emotion from the reader, pushing those emotions further with a heartwarming and motivational themes, showing how important it is to pour your heart into your passion, and how finding that passion can change you for the better. Every major character has a moral to convey, and in the end, leaving every story off with a joyous tone. The cast breathes life and entertainment into the story. With a setting that thrives on its characters, each and every one fills their respective roles, both contributing to the overarching plot and their own individual arcs. The majority of the first half revolves around getting to know the members involved. While the plot itself may stagnate, the interactions that take place allow their own unique personalities to shine, almost never making a dull moment when 2 or more characters are on screen just talking. The group's dynamic can keep a single tangent going, while rarely dulling the experience. As for each individually, the personal stories they have and how it contributes to their play in FC is what makes them stand out, with Masaya being one of the more interesting of the group. A famous FC prodigy, spoken of like a future champion, yet all that weight that title carried led to another unfortunate accident, causing trauma to stay in the once gleaming free world of flight. While he thinks he has gotten over it, his seldom self-deprecating thoughts subtly reveal his trauma is still lingering in the back of his mind. Seeing him take the supporting role within FC, his drowned-out hidden love for it is slightly shown through his inner monologue, really investing the reader into his character, and making you root for him to get back what he once lost. With the choice of Kurashina Asuka, Arisaka Mashiro, Ichinose Rika, and Tobisawa Misaki, the major focus can change onto either one. Asuka and Misaki can be seen as the two major routes for the game. Mashiro and Rika's are side routes that lack major climaxes and leave out certain plot points. They're like routes purely dedicated to the character themselves. Each route not only allows you to focus on a different character, but can give Masaya a different drive to continue pushing forward. The main heroine is none other than the bright and enthusiastic Kurashina Asuka, the catalyst for Masaya's re-emergence into the world of FC. She's optimistic to the extreme. Instead of cowering or tense up when seeing a stronger opponent, this only causes her to bloom into more excitement. Even if she can't beat them, she can at least learn and try again in the future. She follows a more one-dimensional path, being overly optimistic and wanting to give it her all in order to win. But that isn't a negative attribute whatsoever. Her nature is so impactful to the rest of the club members that makes her endearing. With every appearance, she instantly lights up the scene and tone. Next up is the energetic senpai-loving Arisaka Mashiro, displaying a personal story showing the comparison between hard work and talent. The diligent Ichinose Rika is probably the most normal of the cast, with her story showcasing how bonds can alleviate past traumas, and instead of running from the past, use the experiences in the present to create a stronger someone in the future. The second main route, and the one I recommend playing last, goes to the humorous and most realistic of the cast, Tobisawa Misaki. At first being played off as a gag character, throwing out witty and random comments. But nearing the end of the common route, you can notice the underlying troubles she hides. Hiding her weaknesses behind a facade of humorous quips, with her apathetic self running away from problems. Out of any character, she gets the most development throughout. While other routes have themes on the lines of hopefulness, trust, and tackling problems head-on, Misaki's is clouded with the themes of jealousy, low self-worth, and running from problems, showing the effects it can have on one's mind, yet still has that silver lining and learning how to move past those negative emotions to reach a healthy state of mind. Learning to take hold of those fears and problems, and overcoming whatever they may be. Just because Masaya and the four heroines take the spotlight, doesn't mean they overshadow the wide range of supporting characters who also have unique and likable personalities. Most of them play an impactful role or serve to add to the group dynamic, which leads to some entertaining scenarios. Some play both roles well, further adding to the lively atmosphere, but unfortunately, not all of them get proper treatment, as there are a few which hold an important role but do not get the time they need to be as nearly fleshed out as they could be. This is mainly pertaining to the antagonists, who could have been given greater detail for their personal arc's conclusion to leave a bigger impact. My personal favorite is Aoi Kagami, ex-mentor of Masaya and former professional FC player. After Masaya's mental breakdown, had retired from FC and went on to get a job as a teacher. While seen as terrifying and strict, has that typical cool attitude and appearance. While upholding that image, is still seen to be caring. Her character arc is spread throughout each route, expressing herself in different ways for you to fully understand her. She is one of the most fleshed out within, and every bit of information about her past adds to her character. Getting to know her regrets and wishes is what makes her one of the most likable and interesting characters in Aokana. And thanks to the art, displays the world and its characters in all of their glory. There is simply one word to describe the art in Aokana, and that is beautiful. Using a well-polished, detailed art style, with vibrant colors both in the character designs and backgrounds. The backgrounds are custom with a soft undertone that soothes the eye, with CGs that are used perfectly with every appearance, causing a gentle, wholesome feeling, or a surge of emotion. On top of that, the character designs are phenomenal. There's a variety of appealing styles for each and every character, and with a great deal of expressions, makes them feel a lot more alive, switching to a bubbly chibi style in comedic scenarios or when used for exposition. For a mostly static medium, the use of frequent motion makes the experience all the more immersive. For comedic scenes, just a small character pacing back and forth or moving slightly towards another character can unexpectedly add a lot of enjoyment. Within FC matches, the swift sprite movement, constantly changing backgrounds and well-detailed text, turns them into a cinematic-like experience, using these three factors to keep you engaged and play with your emotions. At first, you can be cheering your character on joyfully, but with the change of a single image can instill fear and trepidation. The dark aura that seems to take over them, with the flare in their eye, intimidates not only the player, but the audience as well. The art direction for Aokana is so far one of the best I have seen. The art matches the tone of each scene perfectly, and makes the overall experience a lot more enjoyable. And for a visual novel that is keen on bringing in emotion, what else is stronger than the soundtrack? The soundtrack by Elements Garden is filled to the brim with memorable tracks, covering the entire spectrum of tone, the majority being the laid-back typical slice-of-life tracks, having a more upbeat and soothing melody, emitting the serene feeling of soaring through the sky without a care in the world. And when the mood changes to be more emotional, the soft notes of the piano ring out to stir a somber feeling, yet could be used interchangeably to incite hope. If the focus is on FC, the more booming and thrilling chords dominate, intensifying the match. Then when events take an unforeseen turn, exude tension and worry. Setting the atmosphere is what these tracks do best. Whether it's dramatic, somber, sanguine, or lighthearted, the melody behind it always gives that extra nudge to your investment. With a total of 3 openings, Wings of Courage, Infinite Sky, and Crossing Way, all of them serve to put you in the mood when you start your next playthrough. No matter what it is, the soundtrack always adds on to the experience. It reinforces the visual novel's uplifting nature, while not skimming over the more dark and serious moments. Overall, Aokana is simply an amazing visual novel with lovable characters and a heartwarming story. I give Aokana an 8.13 out of 10. Fit with a well-rounded, likable cast. A constant entertaining dynamic between all of them, with their actions conveying wholesome and inspiring morals. And of course, the aesthetically pleasing art and soundtrack serve to make every aspect of their journey even more enjoyable. Yet at the same time, there are also some parts that can dull the experience. Like most visual novels, there are some poorly paced sections, with the repetitiveness of the beginning of each route exacerbating that problem. And though it is a very minor blow, the story progression does lack originality, leading it to be predictable. Honestly, I did not expect to love it as much as I did. From the beginning, the group dynamic had me hooked and I could read for hours on end. Though I'm not much of a sports person whatsoever, I found FC to be extremely interesting, having my adrenaline pumping with almost every vital match, with me cheering on a certain side and feeling exhilarated when they began to go all out. I've not felt that hype during a fictional matchup in a while, making these types of battles refreshing. And though this has a definite end, this isn't the end of Aokana. There are further editions called Aokana Extra 1 through 4, which follows an after-story of each heroine's route. There's only one out at the moment, being Mashido's, with the extra 2, Misaki's, currently in development. I haven't played through Mashido's after-story as I'm going to wait for Misaki's, so in the meantime, I'm going to get back to reading Higurashi. And wow, what a tonal difference between the two. Thank you Scarlet Thunder for the recommendation. This took a bit longer than I expected to get out, but I really appreciate you suggesting this. I'm open to recommendations, so feel free to ask. I hope you all enjoyed. My next video will be a review on Vivi Fluorite's Eye Song. Thanks for watching. Later.